Good morning, everyone. My name is Ankit, and you're watching the Indian Express analysis for today, that is 11th of February. Now, we'll be dealing with important articles that have appeared in today's newspaper. That are 6 important articles, and we'll start off our today's discussion with concerns that have been expressed by many healthcare professionals over the use of weight loss drugs. Now, these weight loss drugs have been in news primarily because many famous celebrities, they are using it so as to reduce their weight drastically. But you understand, any of these kind of drugs also may have some kind of complications and severe allergic reactions. So today's article highlights that although these are very effective in trimming down your weight, but it also has many side effects, which we'll understand in today's video. Now, this kind of article is important from GS paper 3 syllabus. Primarily it deals with important drugs or discoveries that have or that are important from science and tech syllabus, right? Then we'll be dealing with second article which appeared in the business section of Indian Express newspaper, and it says India, it is expected to import LNG, which is liquefied natural gas, from countries like US. Now, there are primarily two reasons why India is trying to import LNG from US rather than other countries. First reason is diversification, and second one is to balance its trade with US so as to that the US administration does not impose tariff or punitive measures on India. Understood? Now, these kind of articles are primarily important for two papers. First is GS paper 2 syllabus, as it highlights the various aspects of India's trade relations with US, and also GS paper 3 syllabus as it deals with items like energy security and fuel security. Understood? So that is why such kind of an article is very important. Also, we have seen in the past UPSC primarily in its prelims examination have asked questions related to important terms that are in news, primarily related to the energy trade in the world. Understood? So that is why we'll be dealing this article in detail so as to give you important facts and also analysis on how such articles will prevail and how they appear in the newspaper. Then we'll be moving on to the third article, also appeared in the business page. It says that the overseas loans, they have actually become dearer. What do you mean by dearer? It also means expensive, right? So that is why we'll be understanding why such getting expensive of the loans can be detrimental to India's corporate interest, as many corporates, they have opted for foreign markets to secure loans, especially at the time when the interest rates, they were low in the Western markets. But now, since the interest rates have risen in Western markets and also India's currency has depreciated, so the motivation for seeking loans from outside the market has reduced, and it has also put India's corporate sector into a vulnerable position. Now that with rupees depreciation, they'll have to pay more for the amount of dollars that they've taken for external markets. So we'll try to understand the concept behind it, that why rupee depreciation can make loans much more expensive or dearer. Understood? This is also important from GS paper 3 perspective, so we'll be dealing with it. Then we'll be covering an article related to geography. Now, geography is a subject which you don't expect to occur frequently in the newspaper, primarily from the current affairs perspective. But there's an important weather phenomena called as El Nino and its related phenomena called as La Nina, which are in news today, and we'll be dealing with how La Nina brings down the temperature across the globe, and why? Because of La Nina being weak this year, this low in temperature has not been so prominent this year, right? So this will be dealing with GS paper 1 perspective in today's discussion, as it provides you with the necessary detail so that you can solve any question that might appear in the prelims examination, right? Then we'll be dealing with center and its conflict with NCT Delhi government previously, because both NCT Delhi government, before it was governed by an Aam Aadmi party, whereas central government, it is governed by BJP led government. So because of clash in ideologies, we saw there was this tussle between central government and state government of NCT Delhi. Now that both of the parties or both of the government will be controlled by same party, it is expected that this conflict or tussle between these two governments is expected to become less. So we'll try to understand important provisions in the Indian Constitution an interpretation of these provisions and how it led to conflict between these two governments. Understood? Now, such kind of a development are important from GS paper 2 perspective as it deals with matters related to Indian federalism. Understood? So that is why we'll be dealing with this article. Then we'll conclude our today's discussion with India-France relation. And why are we dealing with this article? Because PM Modi is on visit to France and India's important relations or bilateral relations with important nations, example France, they are mentioned in the GS paper 2 syllabus, particularly the IR section of the GS paper 2 syllabus. So that is why we'll be covering these many articles today. In addition to that, I will be providing you with practice PYQs, MCQs and also mains answer writing questions so as to inculcate the habit of practicing your learning on a daily basis, right? So good morning Bulbul, good morning Saujanya, good morning Lakshita, good morning Zakato, good morning. Yes, Lakshita, NCT refers to what? Well, Lakshita, NCT refers to National Capital Territory of Delhi, which is the official name of the Union Territory of Delhi. Understood? I hope it makes your doubt clear. Zakato, I don't know if I am pronouncing your name right. You can correct me if I am wrong. God bless all members of this channel. This channel is helping me a lot in preparation. Thank you, Zakato. Very nice of you to say that. Now, as usual, the notes for this session will be available on my Telegram channel called as ATS Live. So you can either search this keyword ATS Live or you can also search this QR code which will take you directly to my Telegram channel. Also, I am in the process of uploading important reels on Instagram which can be very informative in addition to being helpful for UPSC's perspective. So if you want to watch those reels, here is my handle called as ANKT Singh. Please go there and watch the reels and let me know how these reels are or are they helpful for you or not. Understood? Now, let us start our today's discussion with yesterday's practice question that I had given you in the end. So, let us solve this question first. With reference to National Tiger Conservation Authority, consider the following statement. The NTCA, it was established under the Environment Protection Act of 1986 to strengthen tigers conservation effort in India. Now, if you can recall at yesterday's discussion, I told you it was established as per the Wildlife Protection Act of the year 1972 and not Environmental Protection Act 1986. Therefore, first statement here is incorrect. Second statement, NTCA, it is responsible for implementing Project Tiger, which aims to ensure a viable population of tigers and their natural habitat. Yes, indeed, second statement is correct because NTCA was formed primarily to regulate and monitor the achievements of Project Tiger, a project which was envisaged to make India's population of tigers viable, and because of this project we have seen that India now houses approximately 70 to 80% of world's population of tiger, which is the largest population anywhere in the globe. Understood? So this is one of the notable achievements of NTCA, that is the success of Project Tiger. The third statement, it has the power to notify tiger reserves and ensure the management as per scientific principles. Yes, this body not just monitors tiger reserves, but it also has the power to notify any area as the tiger reserve, as we have understood in the past. So, second and third statement is right, first is incorrect and we had to identify correct statement. So, option B here becomes the right answer to our practice question of the day. Now, before the end of the session, I will be taking up this mains question, which is on India's relation with France and how it has evolved in the recent times, particularly from the perspective of strategic, economic and defense cooperation. Now, we are seeing that India's relationship with France, it is moving beyond the traditional areas also and into the areas of undertaking sustainable development, particularly a carbon neutral development. So, we'll try to understand the various aspects of India's relationship with France in today's discussion, and then we'll be moving to how to approach and how to write these kind of answers, right? Now, without delay, let us start our today's discussion. Sonu Verma, good morning. Lakshita, okay. Zakato, perfect. Sonu Verma, option B is correct. Yes, Sonu, you're right. Now, let us move with our first article. This actually appeared on the page 9th of the Indian Express newspaper. And if you are looking closely, this article actually highlights that doctors or healthcare professionals, they flagged out concerns over weight loss drugs. Now, what are these weight loss drugs? Let us try to find out in today's discussion. Now, the context of this article is actually previously, particularly I am forgetting, it was in December, the World Health Organization, it endorsed a new class of drugs also known chemically as GLP receptor agonist drugs. Now these type of drugs, what they do is they regulate appetite and blood sugar levels. So primarily these drugs are used to control diabetes in a human being, but also we have found out that these drugs are very effective in managing obesity, because consumption of these drugs can lead to rapid weight loss, which is essential for any person, right? So this is why this drug have been in news. Now despite the endorsement by WHO, many doctors are highlighting that this drug also, although very effective in reducing the weight, but might have several side effects also. Understood? So first let us understand what these drugs are, what they do, then understand what the side effects are, right? Now, first, this endorsement was given by WHO because current policies across the world which promotes healthy diets, physical activity, although they are quite effective, but it has not resulted into immediate loss of weight in people, because people inherently are lazy. So they are not trying to increase their physical activity, or they are not trying to have healthy diets. Rather, people want everything instantly. We are living in an area where everything, or we are living in a time where everybody demands instant results, be it instant messaging, be it instant coffee, now instant drug or instant weight loss, right? So that is why these new categories of drugs, they are known as GLP-1 receptor agonist, also known as GLP-1RAs. These are drugs called as semaglutide or tirzepatide, which have the potential to be transformative. Now these drugs primarily, as I told you, they were used to control diabetes, but now they are also being used as a drug to promote weight loss. Now, why is this endorsement first of all quite significant? Because it was coming from WHO, because in 2022 it was found out that 1 in 8 people across the world, they were living with obesity, and in terms of numbers, 890 million people and 160 million adolescents, they were having obesity. Now this prevalence of obesity, it is 2 times more in adults and 4 times more in adolescent as compared to the numbers in 1990. Now this problem is more prominent in childhood, or preferably the adolescent, because we understand child or children, they eat primarily processed foods, and because of that this numbers in India is quite drastic. Now when you compare this numbers with India, 44 million women and 26 million men, they are living with obesity. So that is why this problem is not just unique to India, but it is problematic world over, and so we need to control, or we need to have certain measures that we can implement so as to reduce the obesity levels of people across the world, right? So that is why these drugs and their endorsement by WHO was quite effective. Now semaglutide means it is just a drug name. Semaglutide and tirzepatide. Understood? There is no meaning of these drugs. For example, paracetamol. Paracetamol is a drug that we take to control our fevers. That is the name of the drug, right? So there is no meaning to it. Now, there are many risks of obesity. First is the cost. That is, people living with obesity, their cost associated with obesity is expected to reach $3 trillion by 2030. Now, cost with obesity, it means that people having obesity, they might be seeking treatments, so that cost will incur for that. They might be not so much economically productive, so there is another cost related to it. So these are the problems that people face with relation to obesity. Now in terms of expenditure, on problems with expenditure, it absorbs about 18% of the national health expenditure overall. So that is why we need to control obesity across the world. In terms of mortality also, people with obesity, they are more likely to die at an earlier age rather than compared to fit people, and 12% of all deaths relating from non-communicable diseases can be attributed directly or indirectly to obesity. So these are the reasons why we need to control the levels of obesity in the world. Give me a minute. Yes. Now that is why we need to control the obesity. Now I told you, right, these drugs, although they are very effective in reducing the weight, but there are many side effects. First of all, in terms of effectiveness, these drugs have been able to reduce weight from about 10 to 25%. So technically a person having a weight of 100 kilos, if they consume these kind of drugs, they can lose up to 25 kilos, which is a significant amount of weight. Now, despite this effectiveness, it has severe side effects. First of all is gastroparesis, which is a temporary stomach paralysis which inhibits the digestion process. Now, you understand, if it inhibits the digestion process, person will not automatically feel hungry after a certain amount of time, and that is why their food consumption reduces, and therefore this drug helps in reducing the weight. Also, other side effects, they include pancreatitis, which is an inflamed pancreas, and if it is not controlled, it can even lead to pancreatic cancer. Also, these have been found to having thyroid cancer. So these are significant amount of side effects that these drugs have. Now, it is also important to note that the person who has lost its weight by consuming these kind of drugs, they are likely to gain weight if they stop consuming it, right? So this kind of a drug, they demand frequent consumption, and that is why it is a problematic drug. Also, this drug is available at a very high cost, and these are in high demands. So it is so it is likely that poor people won't be able to afford it, and if it is in high demand, there is a high bit of chance that counterfeit products may also find themselves in the market, or these may be available in informal or grey market. So these are the challenges associated with these drugs. Although they are able to reduce weight by 10 to 25%, however, they have significant side effects like gastroparesis, which is a temporary stomach paralysis, and if not unchecked, it can lead to permanent stomach paralysis. It also leads to pancreatitis, which is an inflamed pancreas, and if not controlled, it can lead to pancreatic cancer, and also it leads to thyroid cancer. Also, these are available at quite high cost, that is why poor people can't afford them, and if they are in high demand, you can understand there might also exist counterfeit products which may not be so effective or even be harmful to people. Understood? Now, let us move to the second article of the day. This article actually appeared in the business page of the newspaper. Now, this news actually highlights that India's oil and gas companies, they are looking to increase their imports from US, particularly the imports of liquefied natural gas or LNG. Now, such kind of an article, as I told you, are important from both GS paper 2, that is IR, that is India's relation with US and its trade related relations, as well as GS paper 3, which deals with matters related to energy security. And it appeared on page 15, so that is why I have written it here. Now, let us understand the context of this article. Now, Trump administration in United States, it is looking to push American energy companies, particularly the companies that are dominant in fossil fuel areas, to increase their production. And naturally, when they'll increase their production, these companies will look to export these fossil fuels like crude oil and natural gas to other countries. So this has actually put India an opportunity that it can source cheaper LNG from US based markets. Now, that is why many companies, that are particularly PSU companies like GAIL, BPCL, etc., they are trying to source these LNGs from US markets. Now, after taking charge last month, Trump lifted Joe Biden administration's ban on export permits for new LNG project, and that is why I told you this gives India an ample opportunity to import cheaper LNG from US. Now, why is actually India wanting to import LNG in particular? Now, you have to understand natural gas, it is far less polluting as compared to other conventional fossil fuels like coal, crude oil, etc. So that is why it is seen as a key transition fuel if you want to move towards a less polluting source of fuel. Because world over we are witnessing increased amount of greenhouse gases. So across the world, countries are looking to clean or make their energy sources much more cleaner in nature. So as we are not able to find a perfect source of energy which is both cheap and non-polluting in nature, so that is why LNG provides a key transition fuel, that it is less polluting than crude oil, so we can use it instead of crude oil. Now, cognizant of this fact, India is expecting, or India wants to grow the share of LNG which is used in its energy sector. Primarily, it constitutes about 6% of total energy needs currently, and India wants to increase this from 6% to 15% by 2030. So that is why the use of LNG in India's energy mix, it is expected to grow. So to meet this demand of LNG, India is not able to produce these LNGs in domestic markets by large numbers. So as to fulfill this increased demand of LNG, rather what India has the option of importing them from other countries, right? Now, in terms of import dependence, I have told you previously, India depends about 87% for imports to meet its crude oil demand. Whereas as compared to LNG, India requires somewhere between 47 to 50% of LNG from imported sources. So that is why I told you, to meet the demand of LNG, we need to import it from countries, and countries that are providing it to us for cheaper prices, that is more beneficial, right? So this is why we are looking to import we are looking to import LNGs. Now let us understand the reasons why are we actually importing it from US and not from other countries. First of all is that you have to understand bulk of India's long-term LNG volumes, it currently comes from countries like Qatar. But you understand India's dependence on just one country is detrimental to India's interest. What if Qatar tries to stop its supplies to India? So India will be in danger, right? So that is why India is trying to diversify its import sources. So from Qatar, it is trying to move to other countries like US. Now, the prices of LNG, which India sources from Qatar, it is benchmark or it is linked to crude oil prices in the Middle East. Whereas prices of LNG that India will import from US, it will be benchmark or it will be linked to Henry Hub prices, right? Henry Hub prices, you have to remember, it is a benchmark in which the LNG prices are determined in the US. Understood? So benchmark is something that we link the prices of a commodity with. So with US it is called as Henry Hub prices, whereas in Qatar it was pegged or it was linked with the prices of crude oil. Now, Indian LNG importers, it needs a portfolio of contracts with different pricing principles. So, what if the prices of crude oil increases? So, in that case, the imports that we are conducting from Qatar, the prices of these imports will go up. So, that is why we'll have an option to import from other sources like US, which not links it with crude oil prices, rather a separate Henry Hub prices, right? So, that is why one of the reasons why we are importing it from US is the need to diversify. That is to import from different sources. Understood? Now let us understand the second reason why we are importing it from US. The first reason I told you was diversification. Second one is to have a much more balanced trade with US. Now you understand India's trade with US is inclined in favor of India, that India exports more products to US than it imports from US. So that is why the balance of trade is surplus in case of India, whereas it is deficit in case of US. So US government, particularly Trump administration, it is very concerned about this trade deficit that US has with many countries, be it China, be it India. So it is imposing tariffs so as to reduce the amount of imports that US does from other countries. So that is why, in order to reduce its trade deficit with US, India wants now to import crude oil as well as LNG from US. So this is another reason, that is to balance its trade or reduce its trade surplus with US. India is trying to look to import LNG from US, and that this will reduce India's trade surplus, and that is why US or Trump will not impose tariffs. So this is one very clever idea by the Indian government. Now many other countries have also already signaled that they are looking to buy more LNG from US. So India does not want to be left behind by this move. Understood? So these are the two reasons why India is looking to import LNG, particularly from US. First is the need for diversification, and second one is the need to have a balanced trade with US, that is to reduce its trade surplus with US. Baga Springs, how is LNG different from CNG? See, LNG is basically the liquefied form of natural gas, because the natural gas, you understand, is a gas, so it requires larger amount of space to be stored in. So if you reduce the temperature and change its state from gaseous state to liquefied state, the area of that gas, it reduces, so it is much easier for us to use that gas. And compressed natural gas is a high pressure natural gas which is used in vehicles as well as homes, as these are sent through pipes, and by using these compressed natural gas we can have larger amount of energy that can be present. So LNG and CNG both are natural gases but in different states. Understood, Baga Springs? Now, the term Henry Hub prices, sometimes found in the news, refers to a benchmark for what? Now, these kind of questions, I have modeled it to a very similar question that appeared in the prelims of the year 2020, because in 2020 a question come, what do you mean by West Texas Intermediate? Now, West Texas Intermediate is a grade of crude oil that the US produces, right? So, similarly, I have curated a question, what does term Henry Hub prices sometimes in news measures to, or it refers to benchmark for what? As you can understand from a current discussion, it means a benchmark for natural gases and their prices. So option D here is the right answer. Understood? So you can understand how such terms are often asked in the prelims examination, right? Now let us move to another article. This one article also appeared in the business page of Indian Express newspaper, and it stated that as rupee or its value is falling, the overseas loan that the companies have taken from foreign markets, it is becoming dearer or much more expensive. Understood? Now such kind of development, which is a part of India's balance of payments, it is important from our UPSC's perspective, because we have seen in the past questions have appeared on various aspects of balance of payment and India's external sectors, both in prelims as well as mains examination. Now we'll be dealing this article primarily from prelims point of view. As I understand, there are only 103 days left in your prelims, so our focus going forward, which will be much more on prelims examination, and we will resume our emphasis on mains once the prelims end, right? So coming back to our today's discussion, this is important from economy perspective, hence I have written here it is a part of GS paper 3 syllabus. Now let us try to understand. Now the rupee, it has depreciated by over 22% in the last 5 years. It was about 71.5 rupees in the past 5 years, and it has now become even less than 86 rupees, right? So that is why it has depreciated for more than 22%. Now the fall in the value of Indian rupee, it increases the financial burden on companies, particularly those companies that have taken loan from outside the India. Now as the value of Indian rupee is reducing, so you understand the companies that have taken a loan in foreign currency, they will have to shell out more rupee per that foreign currency if they want to repay their loan. So that is why the cost of these loans will increase for the companies. Understood? Now this development is likely to have far-reaching implications on Indian companies that have relied heavily on external commercial borrowings in the past. Now if the companies, they borrow money from outside the market, they are known as external commercial borrowings. Understood? Now let us try to understand what these external commercial borrowings are. Now ECBs, these are loans in India that have been made to Indian by non-resident lenders, such as lenders or banks or financial institutions located outside India. So when these currencies or when these loans are provided to Indian companies, they might be provided in rupees or they may be provided in foreign currencies like pound, dollars, yen, etc. Right? And these facilitate access of foreign money, which might be cheap, and these companies, they get these loans and use it for various kind of purposes. So this is what commercial borrowings are. Now these commercial borrowings, they include commercial bank loans, buyer's credit, supplier's credit. All of these are examples of how such kind of loans are secured for international purposes, and these are secured for various kind of bodies, be it commercial banks, be it businesses, or even be finance, which is provided by multilateral financing bodies like World Bank, IMF, ADB, etc. Right? So all of these kind of finances which are provided to Indian companies from foreign sources, these are examples of external commercial borrowings or ECBs, right? Now these ECBs, there are certain restrictions on what these companies can use these foreign loans for. First of all, they cannot be used for making investments in the stock market, because you understand, if the companies, they start taking loans from outside and they invest heavily in the Indian stock market, it will increase the volatility of stock markets. So we don't want that. So that is why we prohibit these companies from using the loans money taken from outside the country and invest it in stock markets. Also, the use of these funds, they are regulated by Department of Economic Affairs, which is a part of Ministry of Finances, along with Reserve Bank of India. So there is actually dual regulations on the ECB, first by the Finance Ministry, second by the RBI, as RBI monitors and regulates by issuing guidelines as well as policies for ECBs. Now these ECBs, they are a part of capital account in the balance of payment. So please remember that, because these loans are long-term loans and the companies who are taking these loans will have to repay back. That is why these are not a part of current account, rather these are a part of capital account. Now let us try to understand the implication of how depreciation or fall in the value of Indian rupee can implicate or can relate to changes in ECB. First of all, I told you, right, when rupee value declines, the value of dollar increases relative to it. So that is why Indian companies who are having ECBs will have to shell out more rupees per their dollars or for their foreign currency if they want to repay their loan back. And let me tell you this with a very simple example. For example, earlier, what if the value of rupee was 75 rupees, right? So in that case, if any company took loan worth $1 billion from US market, it gave the company some total of 7,500 crore rupees, right? But now, after a period of 5 years, say this company has to repay the $1 billion $1 billion back to the bank that from which he has taken the loan from. So that is why now, when the value of Indian rupee is rupees 86, the value of $1 billion becomes what? 8,600 crore rupees, right? So technically, the company which took loan for 7,500 crore rupees, that was value of $1 billion back then, now they will have to pay back 8,600 crore just to pay back the loan of $1 billion, just because the value of rupee has reduced from 75 to 86. So that is why the sum total of money that the company is expected to shell out will increase by 1,100 crores, right? So this is an example how repayment of loan after the depreciation of your own currency becomes much more expensive for Indian companies, right? Because they will have to shell out extra money just to repay their old debt. And this is, I'm not counting the interest that they are paying on the loans, right? So not just the principal value increases, but also their interest increases. So that is why it is much more expensive on the company to repay the loan back, right? Now, not just the value of rupees declining, which increases the cost of returning the loans, but what if the weaker rupee sustains, then the banks in foreign countries, they will start charging higher interest rates also, because they know you are in a vulnerable position. So that is why they'll benefit out of it, and they'll say that we'll charge not 5 or 10% interest rate, but rather you'll have to pay 15% interest rate on the loan. So not just the principal amount increases, but the interest amount also increases, right? And what if this rupee value, it depreciates further? Then there will be a net outflow of the foreign investment, and this will further depreciate Indian rupee. So this is a vicious cycle, that first of all, rupee is decreasing, which makes payment of loans much more expensive, and the companies, they will start charging higher interest rates, so the interest payment will also increase. And if rupee continues to decrease, more money will outflow out of India, and it will further reduce the value of rupee. Understood? So this is how it can actually be much more negative prospect for Indian company to seek loans from outside, as it will become much more expensive for the Indian companies to pay their loan backs, right? Now let us try to solve this question, right? With reference to external commercial borrowings, consider the following statement. Now ECB, they refer to loans availed by domestic entities in foreign currency only. Are these ECBs available just in foreign currencies? No. These are available in Indian rupee. These are also available in foreign currencies like dollars, pound, yen, etc. So technically, 70% of India's loans, these are either hedged, which is protected by change in value, or these are sourced in rupee. Whereas 30% of the loans that India makes, it is much more vulnerable, because these are made in foreign currencies, and also these are not protected against any rise in value of rupee. So that is why if the question states that it is borrowings made in foreign currency only, the answer is no, because it can even be made in the domestic currency, that is rupee. Second statement, ECBs can be raised by both public and private sector entities, including non-banking financial companies. Yes, it is right. PSUs, corporate companies, NBFCs, banks, all of these can issue ECBs and take loans from foreign market. Second statement correct, first incorrect. ECBs, these are always cheaper than domestic borrowings due to lower interest rates in international markets. I told you these are sometimes cheaper. That earlier, when the interest rates, they were low in US market, that is why companies started taking loan from US market, right? But now that we have seen the interest rates are increasing in US market, so it is not economically much more beneficial for companies to take loans from outside the market, right? So that is why it is not always cheaper, it is just sometimes cheaper. So that is why you have to pay attention to the words that are used in the exam, because these words can play along and that can make you interpret that statement correctly or incorrectly, right? So third statement here is incorrect because it is not always cheaper, just sometimes cheaper. Now, please pay attention to the statement. Which of the statements given above is or are incorrect? This question is actually asking us to identify incorrect statement. What are incorrect statement? First and third. Therefore, option C is the right answer to this question because it is asking us to identify incorrect statement, right? So, that is how you approach the questions that appear in the prelims examination. Now, as I tell you every day, you have an option if you're not understanding the basic concepts that are being explained in the articles, or if you're reading your notes, if you're not able to understand the very basic concepts, you have an option to enroll for the foundation course which are available in Study IQ, because in Study IQ we intend to guarantee a selection, which has become our mission, and for that we have brought many courses that might be beneficial for candidates or aspirants who are starting in their journey for UPSC preparation. For example, there is this foundation batches that are available in our institute, and these are called as P2I foundation batches or Sampoorn batches. Sampoorn in English means complete. Now these are available for both 2026 and 2027, and right now there are offers going on this particular courses. For example, if you click this 2026 batch, it is available at 36,249 rupees right now, but I'll tell you one way in how you can get it reduced even further. For example, there must be a code that must be flashing in the screens in the bottom of your screen called as ATS Live. So click on buy now here. There are offers available. So click on this add promo code, click on enter coupon code and add ATS called as ATS Live, right? So if you add ATS Live here, click on apply, the value reduces from 36,499 to 28,999, right? So that is how you can save your hard-earned money, that more than 7,249 rupees is available for you just by using the code ATS Live on the website. Understood? So that is how you register for these courses, and let me tell you the benefits of these courses. We provide you 18 books that acts as your study material. We provide you live classes for all the subjects, in addition to providing one-on-one doubt sessions as well as mentoring support, so as to help solidify and nullify your doubts that may emerge in your preparation. Also, if you want to practice, you have an option that you can opt for prelims test series, mains test series, all of which are included in this course only without any cost. Further, you will get guidance from mentors 24/7 as they will be available to your help. So these are many benefits that are available in the course. So before the prices increase, please make sure to register it using the code ATS Live, right? So coming back to our today's discussion, let us move to the next article. This article actually appeared in the explain section of the newspaper, and it states that the 2025 is actually the warmest year because La Nina, which actually reduces the temperature across the world, it has not actually been able to reduce the temperature because La Nina is weak. So let us try to understand first of all this article, which is important from geography syllabus, as it is a part of which paper? GS paper 1, because geography is mentioned there, right? Now let us understand the conditions of what is a neutral phase, what is El Nino and what is La Nina. Then only we'll be able to identify, right, why is La Nina not so effective this year. First of all, this condition is known as ENSO, that is Eastern, Northern, Southern Oscillation, right? Now there are three phases in which this determines the climate of the world. The first is called as neutral phase, which is the normal state of affairs in the part of waters that is between South America as well as the coast of Australia. Now there is this prevalence of trade winds into the areas of Northern Australia, right? Now these trade winds, what they do is they flow over these water bodies and it takes out the warm air from the western coast of South America. Now, as the warm air moves from western coast of South America towards Australia, there occurs an upwelling of water into the western coast of South America, which means the water which is located in the lower part of the ocean, it emerges on the top of the water surface, right? Now, this prevalence of cold water in the western coast of South America is what you call as a neutral phase, right? Now, what if this wind were to stop flowing it, right? So that case, it is known as the prevalence of El Nino, because this trade winds, instead of flowing when it stops, it leads to warm water movement not away from western coast of South America, rather towards South America, right? So what we saw earlier that happened, that prevalence of cold water in this region, it will not happen now, and this will lead to warmer climates into the western part of South America. And this El Nino, we have seen that it leads to warmer temperatures even in India, and it leads to reduction in rainfall during the monsoon season in India, right? So this is how El Nino, Southern Oscillation, or ENSO can affect the temperatures of India and across the globe. Now let us understand actually what is La Nina. Now I told you in the earlier phase, right, that in a neutral phase or the normal conditions, when trade winds blow, they lead to cooling off or emergence of cooling waters here in the western coast of South America, right? But what if there is a further increase in the velocity of these trade winds, right? So the waters or warmer waters will move fastly from this area, and therefore the cooling in this area will intensify, or there will be larger amount of cool water which will be present here in the western coast of South America, and this is called as the phenomena of La Nina, right? Now, during La Nina year, we have seen it leads to changes in temperature in India, because India receives normal or above normal rainfall during the time when La Nina is in application. Also, this kind of a phenomena leads to drought in areas like Africa, as well as it intensifies hurricanes in the Atlantic Ocean. So, this kind of a phenomena impacts temperatures not just in India but across the globe, right? So, this is what La Nina is. Now, this La Nina, it affects India's climate. First of all, let us understand this. Now, when La Nina is in application, northern India, it is likely to experience a colder winter than usual. Whereas La Nina winters, it features colder nights as compared to El Nino. However, during daytime, the temperatures, they are expected to be on a higher side, right? Now, the average wind speed, it is also higher during the phase of La Nina, and that is why the accumulation of air pollution, which is quite prevalent in cities like Delhi, it does not happen because wind speed is intense. So, as the wind speed is intense, it will disperse the pollution that occurs in the urban areas, and that is why we'll see less amount of air pollution in metropolitan cities during the La Nina, right? So, this is how La Nina affects climate as well as speed of wind into the Indian continent. Also, let us try to understand the trends in La Nina. Now, the decade of 2020, it began with 3 consecutive phase or 3 consecutive events of La Nina, which was also known as triple dip La Nina. However, this La Nina dispersed away, and it led to El Nino in the year of 2023. Now, climate change as well as increase in frequencies and intensity of both La Nina and El Nino events, we have seen that La Nina and El Nino, they become quite unpredictable due to the phenomena of climate change. So, that is why we will not be able to 100% guarantee when the La Nina or El Nino will happen, or how it might change the climate or the geopolitical effect on any continent. Now, the rising sea and land temperatures that happens during these phenomena, it tends to disrupt the balance of Pacific Ocean, because I told you this is a primary phenomena located in the Pacific Ocean, right? Now, it was expected that during the La Nina, which might happen in 2024, it will cool off the temperatures of the world over, right? But the ongoing La Nina cycle, it was expectedly quite weak, because it emerged much later, as earlier it emerged during the months of September, but this year it emerged only in December. As it emerged quite late, we saw the La Nina itself was quite weak this year, and because of this weaker temperature, its influence over temperature and precipitation patterns, they were not so prominent this year. There were other phenomena also which led to contribution of warmer temperatures in the globe. First was rising heat trapping atmospheric carbon or the greenhouse gases. As you understand, the levels of greenhouse gases increases, the heat trapping potential of these gases leads to increase in temperature, right? Now, usually a strong La Nina brings a lot of extra rain. So you understand, if the La Nina was strong, it can lead to extra rain, which will lead to germination of new plant growth, and it will enable absorption of these greenhouse gases. But as La Nina was not so intense, it did not lead to higher amount of rainfall, and therefore the plants that were expected to capture these greenhouse gases did not emerge. Another factor is actually dip in the concentration of aerosols. Now, aerosols, although these are quite beneficial and they provide a property that these aerosols, they have a ability to reflect the sunlight back. And these aerosols, they also lead to formation of clouds, which also can reduce the amount of sunlight which is there in a particular area. Now, the presence of aerosol, it reduces the sunlight, so you can understand it leads to cooler temperature, but the concentration of aerosols, it reduced, therefore the amount of sunlight which was prevalent, it increased, and therefore it lead to rise in temperature. Understood? So this is how we understood the impact of La Nina on global climates. Particularly in India, it leads to colder winters and it leads to higher amount of monsoon. But as the La Nina this year, it emerged late, not in September but in December, it lead to a weaker La Nina, and because there was this weak La Nina, we saw there was this less rainfall which did not trap the amount of greenhouse gases that were emitted, and it also led to dip in the concentration of aerosol, which increased the amount of sunlight, therefore increasing the temperatures. Understood? Now let us solve another practice question. Consider the following statements regarding La Nina. La Nina refers to the abnormal cooling of sea surface temperatures into the central and eastern equatorial Pacific Ocean. Yes, this is correct. It leads to abnormal cooling of the sea surface waters. As I have told you, La Nina events, these are generally associated with increased rainfall in India during the monsoon season. Again, correct. La Nina conditions lead to a weaker than normal trade winds across the Pacific Ocean. Now, what did I tell you? During the normal months, there are existence of trade winds that takes the warmer waters away from the western coast of South America. During La Nina, these trade winds, they actually intensify, or there is an increase in the speed of these trade winds, therefore leading to abnormal cooling of temperatures on the western coast of South America, right? So actually, it does not lead to weaker, rather stronger trade winds. So that is why third statement becomes incorrect, and we had to identify correct statement here. First and second is right. So option A therefore is the right answer. Now let us move to another article. This article actually appeared in the explain section of the Indian Express, and it states that now that the BJP is expected to be in power in Delhi, so the tussle that occurred previously before the elections happened, that is between Aam Aadmi Party led government in Delhi and BJP led government in center, it is expected to reduce now. Now the context of this article I have told you, so let us understand what are the areas in which actually these two governments fought like cats and dogs. Now, the constitutional scheme of Indian Union territories, it is very different from Indian federalism, that is a relation between India and its states. Now, Article 239, it provides for administration of Union territories. As President, it governs the Union territories through an appointed administrator or a lieutenant governor who is directly appointed by the President of India. Now, Article 239A, it provides a dual power structure for UTs where there is a legislative assemblies. These are Jammu and Kashmir, these are Puducherry, and these are National Capital Territory of Delhi. So these are the three states which are governed as per the provisions of Article 239. And why these are governed differently? Because in these states we see there is an elected legislative assembly that discharges the powers of day-to-day administration. Right? So there are actually two different kinds of power structure in these states or in these union territories that have legislative assemblies. These are Council of Ministers, which is headed by an elected CM, and also the LG, which is appointed by the President. Now, according to Article 239A, the 69th Amendment Act, it brought this new Article 239A, and it provided that governance of Delhi, the union government, it will have power to govern over the matters related to public order, police and land in Delhi. But with a notification that was issued by the Government of India back in 2015, the control of bureaucracy, that is services, it was shifted from the government of Delhi to the lieutenant governor also. So this is actually provided in the constitution, and this was provided by a notification by the union government. And this is why in these areas we have seen that the central government and government of NCT Delhi, they have actually collided over with each other, right? So let us understand what were the court rulings, because this dispute ultimately it could not be solved, and then it went to the courts of India, first to High Court of Delhi, and then it went to Supreme Court of India. Now Supreme Court of India, it formed two constitution benches, that is benches of more than 5 judges, and they gave two judgments, first in 2017 and in 2023. Now both of these judgments by Supreme Court, it highlighted that the Delhi government, it actually has the legislative as well as executive power over the administrative services, because according to this Supreme Court, the Delhi constitutional scheme, it provides for a unique form of government where although there is dual power structure, but the administration of services both in legislative as well as executive manner, it has to be done by the elected government of Delhi. So trying to overrule this judgment by Supreme Court, the government, it brought an amendment called as Government of NCT Delhi Amendment Act in 2023. Now through this Amendment Act, the government, it extended the LG's power to transfer and appoint bureaucrats who are posted in Delhi. And the selection and appointment of this bureaucrat will be done so after the recommendation made by a committee which consists of CM of Delhi as well as 2 bureaucrats, that is Chief Secretary of Government of Delhi as well as Principal Home Secretary of Government of Delhi. And based on the decision which will be taken by a majority, then the LG will transfer or appoint any bureaucrat in the Delhi government. Now you have to see, there is only one elected person in this committee, rather there are 2 bureaucrats. So technically these 2 bureaucrats can overrule the decision of CM of Delhi, and this is what led to problems. Now this Amendment Act is actually in Supreme Court right now, and Supreme Court is considering whether this amendment is actually constitutional or not, right? So if any future development happens over this issue, we'll be first one to cover it, right? So this is the how this dispute, which was quite prevalent earlier because there were 2 parties in power in respected governments, it is expected to become less now because BJP will be ruling both central as well as NCT Delhi government, right? Now let us move to the last article of the day. This article actually appeared in today's newspaper because currently as we speak, Prime Minister Modi is on his visit to France to attend the Global AI Summit, right? So this article actually highlights 2 aspects. First is India's relations with France and India's intention to regulate and monitor the developments of AI. So we'll be dealing with India-France relations today, and the discussion over India's ability to reflect and regulate AI, especially with this particular summit, we'll be dealing with tomorrow possibly because it is expected to happen today and the developments will appear in tomorrow's newspaper, right? Now today's discussion, that is the relations between India and France, it is important from GS paper to syllabus because it is a part of IR syllabus, right? And it appeared in page 16, which is today the location of Explain newspaper. Now India's relationship with France, you have to understand, it is both old and much deep, and it is based on the principles of strategic autonomy, which is the need of having an independent foreign policy and also the mutual respect that the people of France and the government of France have it for people and government of India. Now the Prime Minister Narendra Modi's visit to Paris as a co-chair for the AI summit, it is testimony of the endurance of this relationship and how this can actually bring a positive change into this world, right? So we'll be dealing with first of all India's relationship with France today, and this might be covered tomorrow because this is an ongoing development and a newer news will help put us in a wider perspective, right? So let us discuss India's relationship and how it has evolved with France in the upcoming decades. Now, India's ties with France, you have to understand, it has evolved around the sense of strategic autonomy, that these 2 countries, they cherish their autonomy, and how this relationship between these 2 countries, it has evolved the challenges that the world's order has might faced, and this is due to because both of these countries and the government, they have a sense of respect for each other. Now you have to understand, France, it refused to join the chorus of global condemnation that India faced when it tried and tested its nuclear weapons, and the French president was the first one to visit India on a bilateral visit after such sanctions were imposed by many Western countries, primarily US. Now also French president was the first one to visit even during the time there was this emergency in India, and Prime Minister Indira Gandhi back then, she faced world criticism over it. So French was actually the first one to become closer to India even in those difficult times. Understood? So that is why a friend in need, we can say, is actually a friend indeed. Also, this actually is a testimony of French pragmatism, because France and French people, they understand the importance of India, and they also understand if we try to isolate India, it is actually detrimental to French interest. So French is actually looking for themselves only. That is why the relationship with India, it is quite solid between these two countries. Now bilateral ties, they have actually even become more durable and stronger back since 1920s, and it has been primarily due to a comfort of relationship between the India and France. Now you can start any of the answer that comes on India's France relationship with the quote of French President Chirac, which made back in Delhi in 1998 when he was the chief guest of India's Republic Day parade, right? Now he said that the idea of India-France relationship is actually a partnership for 21st century, as it is a global partnership which is grounded in our complementarities and our common interest, right? So any answer, if you started with this quote, you'll see how good impression you can make on the invigilator or in the evaluator of your paper, right? Now these two countries have traveled a significant distance since 1912s, and current relationship, it is based on the warm relationship that Prime Minister Modi has with the French President Macron. Now you understand the matching of vibe between two leaders is very important if the relations between these two countries were to become quite stronger, right? And this has actually happened between PM Modi and French President Macron, right? So this is how you will start your answers. Now you have to understand various aspects of how India's relationship with France is said to be so solid and so grounded. Now first, the strategic ties between these two countries have actually made on the traditional pivots such as defense, security, space, nuclear energy, etc. Now French nuclear companies, they have set up nuclear power plants in India, particularly in Gujarat and Maharashtra, and also France is an active supplier of defense military equipments to the Indian Armed Forces. For example, the strongest ties we have seen is in the areas of defense partnership, because currently the defense partnership, it is monitored annually based on two summits: annual defense dialogue, which is actually dialogue happens at the defense minister level, and also a committee on defense cooperation, which actually is a interaction between the secretary level officers of these two governments. Also, as I told you, French is an active supplier of very technologically advanced military platforms to India, be it Rafale aircraft or the P-75I Scorpion projects. Now Indian Air Force has about 36 Rafale aircraft, and it is expected that 26 more Rafale aircraft will be procured for Indian Navy. Whereas Indian Navy has already 6 Scorpion submarines, and it is expected that 3 more will be ordered by India, right? So this is how France has played a key role in strengthening India's armed forces. Also, the French have always assured that not just will supply you with the military equipment, but will also help you make these military equipment in Make in India, and not just will help you manufacture it, but will also transfer the technology to it. So India can actually become a defense major manufacturer just because of the help of France in setting up of manufacturing localities and also transferring of the technology. Further, France is offering to train Indians in how to use this technology, and that is how India's relationship with France is said to be too close, which the other countries are not so comfortable with. As US, Russia, we have seen they are quite apprehensive and they are quite suspective of the fact that they are transferring their technologies to other countries, whereas on the other hand, France has a good technology and they are willing to transfer it to India to help India manufacture them in their own territory. Further, other potential areas of collaboration are being pursued, like co-development of next generation engines for fighter planes, and also an office of DRDO has been set up in the Indian embassy in Paris so as to increase the cooperation over the technology between India and France, right? So this is how you will write your various aspects of India-France relationship, and you'll start it with the defense cooperation. Now the bilateral ties, which is grounded on the areas of defense, it is now expanding to newer areas such as supply of technology, innovation, renewable energy, trade, economy, supply chain partnership, as well as people to people relationship. Now this is quite important, as we have seen increased footfalls of tourists from both these countries into the another country, and this has actually increased the people to people relations. Also, the two leaders in Modi's current visit, they are expected to jointly inaugurate an Indian consulate in Marseille. And why is it setting up in Marseille? Because Marseille is actually a global communication hub, which is a strategic location in Mediterranean Sea, and it also acts as a keynote for network of undersea cables. Now you have to understand 99% of global communication, it is done through undersea cable network, which connects the continents with another continents, right? And Marseille being in that area, so Indian presence is quite desirable in such areas. Further, with the history of innovation, technology, strength and niche expertise, France actually is an important partner, as it can provide technology innovation that is required to India to scale up its manufacturing activities. And an initiative on Indo-France Triangular Development Cooperation is also taking place, as India and France, they'll jointly inaugurate and operate another projects into the third world countries, which is looking to implement climate and SDG focus projects specifically in the Indo-Pacific region. And this is where the islands that are located in the Indo-Pacific region like Mauritius, Maldives, etc., in these countries, India and France, they can together implement and execute a project in these third countries, right? So not just the relationship between these two countries are improving, but their execution of projects or joint development of projects, it is also improving in many strategic areas, which will give both of these countries an increased outreach into the areas like Indo-Pacific. Further, the recent part of these two relations have actually appeared into the arena of renewable energy and climate change, because India launched International Solar Alliance, which is an alliance to promote development of solar power projects across the globe. And also India and France, they have started, or they are members of Coalition of Disaster Resilient Infrastructure, which provides for improving the resilience of existing infrastructure so as to battle the changes of climate change. Now, together, these two countries have made significant contribution in writing the code for greener, sustainable planet. Now, with PM Modi's visit to the Global AI Summit, where he will act as a co-chair, it also marks the cooperation of between India and France onto the contours of development of digital world, particularly the area of artificial intelligence, right? So, this will cover tomorrow onwards. Today, we dealt with India and France relationship, right? Now, let us try to solve the practice question that I had given you in the start of our today's session. Examine the evolution of Indo-France relationship in the context of strategic, economic and defense cooperation. How has the partnership evolved in the arena of strategic development? Now, I told you, you can start your answers with this quote of President Jacques Chirac, that India-France relationship, it highlights a partnership for 21st century, as it is a global partnership which is grounded in our complementarities and our common interests, right? So this you will borrow to start your answers. So intro is, you will say that Indo and France relationship is actually a partnership for 21st century, and it is grounded in complementarities and common interest. Now you will move to the body part of your answer. First, you will divide your answers into many parts. You will start off the aspects of defense cooperation, the defense cooperation. Then you will move on to the energy cooperation, where you will highlight that France was an active participant in developing nuclear power plants in India. Then you will move on to undertaking joint development projects in the Indo-Pacific region. And the third part of your answer has to how this partnership has evolved over these years. Now, what you will write here, evolution, that you will say earlier it was pivoted on traditional areas like defense. Now it has moved away from defense to areas such as sustainable development. And here you will give three examples. First is the International Solar Alliance. Another one is the Coalition for Disaster Resilient Infrastructure. And third one is the development of digital technology, that is AI. Right. So this is how you will write your answer. Now you will conclude your answer that both of these countries have a strategic partnership where the ideology of these two countries are grounded on the fact that they want it to be strategic autonomous, as well as both of these countries have a mutual respect. Right. So that is how you will approach our today's answer. Now, if you have any problem in writing this answer and if you want to get it evaluated, please use this Telegram channel to submit your answers, and I will be more than happy to tell you what is good and what is bad aspects of your answer. Right. Now, before concluding our today's session, this is the homework for today. Please comment the right answer in the comment section. I will see you again tomorrow at 10 a.m. Until then, please have a good day and a goodbye from my side. Well, my ID or Instagram Biswabrata is ENKTSNGH. You can scan the QR code that I have provided in the session at the start and go.